I'm now speaking with Michelle Merritt, 2nd District City Council. Michelle, why did you decide to run in this upcoming primary?
Thank you for having me, first of all. I never saw myself as a candidate. And I was approached the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, by some community leaders who felt that I had some strong qualities that equaled candidacy. And after a lot of consideration and a lot of discussion about it at home, I agreed. So I said yes. We recently moved to the 2nd District. We moved in 2014 to the 2nd District, and it's such a great place to live. It's such a great community, and being a part of that and seeing economic growth and development in the 2nd District was really something that I found to be priority. And so when the opportunity arose for me to put my name in and be a part of that, I wanted to be sure to do that.
Now, are you a Fort Wayne native?
I'm not. I moved here in 2008.
From?
The outskirts of Chicago. I'm from Indianapolis originally and became invested in this community right away when I moved here.
So when you moved into your area, did you know that that area was historic?
I did. We were in love with this Lakeside neighborhood that we live in from the second we came to Fort Wayne. I lived downtown in Three Rivers, the high-rise there, for the first 6 years that I was here. And then, like I said, about a year ago, we bought a beautiful, historic 90-year-old craftsman bungalow that had been very well taken care of. And we're really just the next caretakers of the home. And we wanted that sense of community, we wanted that sense of pride, we wanted that sense of being in a neighborhood, and it's provided us that. I think promoting the 2nd District, and specifically the Lakeside Park area that you're referring to, is important really not only for the people that live there, but for the people who do business there, and for the people who are considering moving within the district. I think that it's important that we really promote all the great things that have occurred in there and promote it as a great place to live. We have a huge focus on downtown development right now that I think is very, very important. And one of the best parts about downtown development is the fact that it brings people who want to live closer to downtown and living in the historic homes and in this historic district that is the 2nd District is a great place to be.
What issues turn you on the most right now?
What issues turn me on the most? I think what's more important is what it is that I'm hearing from people in the 2nd District that they want the representation to care about. They want responsive government. They want people they want a representative that's there for them, that knows who they are, who's accessible to them. That seems to be the biggest thing that I hear from people regularly.
And for a long time we've been talking that one of the side benefits for talking with candidates one-on-one is perhaps they might divulge a secret to their activism to a younger person, because right now the apathy is just through the roof, for voting and what have you. When did you, in your adolescence, growing up here, you had to have that spirit someplace where you don't mind stepping out to the forefront before people ask you to step out to the forefront. What motivated that, or how did that occur?
When I was 11 years old, Geraldine Ferraro was on the ticket to be vice president. And I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated by the fact that a woman could be in office. I was fascinated by her in general. I don't know that I understood all that was going on, but she was in my generation, the first woman that I saw step up in such a large way. And when I was 11 years old, I announced that I would be the first female president of the United States. And my father very kindly looked at me and said, I don't know why you would want that job, but if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. And I sort of put that on a shelf. I never really thought much about it after that. I didn't pursue any of it. Certainly don't see myself being the first female president of the United States anymore, but when the opportunity came to be involved in this community in general in 2008 when I moved here, and to take a very active role in the community here, it was a great time to step up. And today we have so many more opportunities as women that Geraldine didn't ever have.
So, you know, what have you done in your private life that has helped prepare you for this opportunity here?
It's so funny that you say private life, because ever since I've moved to Fort Wayne, I've lived such a public life, it's hard for me to ever think of any of it as being private. I came to Fort Wayne to be the culture and retention director for Three Rivers Federal Credit Union. So I was involved in all of their public relations.
Hold it. Cultural and retention
director.
What is that?
It means that I managed all of their community relations, public relations, recruiting, and retention. So it was the people side of everything, internally and externally, and really making sure we were in the right position as an organization in the community. And so it gave me the opportunity to get involved in some amazing organizations in Fort Wayne and really begin to see the community for what it is, which was a group of people who really cared about it. You know, when I moved here in 2008 and people would ask me, well, where'd you move from? And I'd tell them, and they would say, I'm sorry. Or they would say, why'd you do that? And they were shocked. And I couldn't figure out why everyone was apologizing.
That you would leave Indianapolis or Chicago and come here?
Correct. And what I noticed at that time was a real self-esteem issue that Fort Wayne seemed to have. And there's so many great things going on, and it's been so great to see this transition in the last 7 years and to be a part of that transition that is really boosting the community and talking about the great assets that are right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
But it seems as though those assets have been promoted outside to others and getting others inspired, because I can appreciate that person asking you those questions, because in Indianapolis or Chicago you have sports teams and you have other things that people can feel a part of. They can feel a spirit from the football team or basketball team or something like that. But here we're just left in the wilderness here, so to speak, unless we can reach out to the coach from here or someplace, and nobody's ever come up with the one thing that we can grab a hold to here in Fort Wayne. You know, what do you see that one thing to be? You know, I mean, you come from those other areas that have icons and landmarks and what have you, and we don't have that here in Fort Wayne. What vision do you have for Fort Wayne, and how do you see the image of it being?
Okay. You know, I think it's different for each person. You know, living in Chicago, living in Indianapolis, there are so many opportunities there for individuals. So you can seek out what individually inspires you. Here, Fort Wayne has been, I've said this for years, Fort Wayne has been the most warm and welcoming community that I have ever lived or worked in. And I say that because whenever you make an effort here in Fort Wayne to get out and get involved, whether it is attending minor league sporting events, and we are one of the top minor league cities in the country, whether it's participating in the arts district, whether that's independent arts like WonderCommer, or whether that's the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, or whether that's working with Hedgehog Press that happens to be in the 2nd District. When you start participating in the arts here, that community opens itself up and it welcomes you. You know, no matter if you have a family and you're participating in area family activities and things like the Fort Wayne Children's Choir and great organizations like that, that community opens itself up to you. And so I think there's a lot of different things. I don't think it's really much different than being in Chicago or in Indianapolis. I think Fort Wayne is its own entity. And I think it has its own unique things, just like those larger cities do. And the best part about it is how warm and welcoming everyone will be when you seek those things out.
You know, how do you feel about the whole concept of inclusion? Do you think that it's too hypothetical, or is the environment ready for that right now?
Oh, I don't think it's hypothetical at all. I think that we are a city that includes people, and I think we have opportunities to expand on that. I think we all have to work at it. We all want to work together. I think there's tremendous opportunity to continue to grow and include all parts of this city, and specifically grow the 2nd District.
Well, in terms of inclusion, now here's a kind of a hard question here. It seems as though that there's a flaw in the concept,
Okay.
such as when you're bringing in the different groups here, the different ethnic groups, the different sexual groups, the different real tall people groups, you know, to be part of the community, people have approached me and said that it was somewhat disingenuous because we're ignoring the original people who were excluded, and that a lot of times you have to know where the inclusion movement began and why it exists, so that so that you can document the growth of a community. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
I think that we need to tell all sides of history. And that way we can educate ourselves on what has happened in the past and the travesties that have occurred in our history, and be able to hopefully avoid some of those moving forward.
You know, while you were at the bank, and you mentioned that you were a cultural director,
Mm-hmm.
how was that? I mean, was it difficult to deal with different ethnic groups here, or cultural groups, or special interest groups?
No, it was not. I knew that about the position going in, and one of the greatest stories about my arrival in Fort Wayne is that while I was interviewing, I reached out to the Urban League and gave Jonathan Ray a call and left him a voicemail basically just saying, you know, I'm looking at a position in Fort Wayne. I really can't tell you much about it, but culture and diversity is a key part of that. Would love to talk to you and hear your perspective. And he was kind enough to give me about 45 minutes of his time when he returned my call to tell me what was going on in the city and the things he liked and the things he thought needed improvement. And we became friends after that when I accepted the position in Fort Wayne. And I went on to serve on the Urban League Women's Guild and ultimately the Urban League Board, and was, again, always welcomed warmly. And that opened a lot of doors for me to continue the work of the credit union within the community there, and then ultimately in my role as Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce. After that, it allowed me to continue that work.
So, do you walk away from this scenario with enthusiasm that the Fort Wayne leaders are serious about making this a good place for everyone?
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt of that.
One last thing here, for people who don't know you, what special qualities do you bring to the table, especially when you're battling a city council over certain issues with other council members or with people at their open mic night? What do you bring to the table that does not exist down there?
A willingness to listen. In every role I've had in this city, whether it's been on one of the numerous boards or committees I've served on, or whether it's been at the credit union or in my own company or at the Chamber of Commerce, I have a reputation for being the person to get things done. And I have a reputation for taking everyone's input and helping determine and guide a direction that actually gets concrete things done. I've been called ambitious more than once. And I think it's high time we have a little more ambition in Fort Wayne. It's time that we really become ambitious about the great city we are and about telling people that, not only here, but outside of Fort Wayne, so that no one else feels like they have to apologize to someone. So the ability to listen, the ability to dig in and roll up my sleeves and get things done, and work together with people and bring that group of people around a table together and figure out the best course of action. That would be my answer.
No, you just said something there. To tell our story outside of Fort Wayne, now that's awfully ambitious, because I don't really see that many people who are really championing that. And even though Fort Wayne has such original stories that nobody else in America can touch the stories, I'm not seeing that kind of enthusiasm from downtown people. But then that might come from your socialization or other places coming into Fort Wayne. So that might be a good reason to have new blood here.
I hope so. And I would also say that groups like Visit Fort Wayne and the Regional Partnership and Greater Fort Wayne, that was the merger of the Alliance and the Chamber, I think they're really working hard to really tell that story that is Fort Wayne to people that are outside of the community, whether it's businesses that they're seeking out as potential newcomers to the community or as just visitors, that individuals that are visiting. I think the work is being done. There's more to do. There's certainly more opportunity there. And some of that comes from the community rallying behind all of this effort to really start talking to everyone they know about what a great community Fort Wayne is.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck with the candidacy.
Thanks.
And thank you for watching.